Why hello there, this is Alex, welcome to Boomstick Gaming, and my full overview for the turn-based roguelike dungeon crawler Aratus, Lord of the Dead, which just came out in its full release. This video is sponsored by the publisher of the game, Daedalic Entertainment, and if it looks like your kind of thing, you can find a link to the Steam page right beneath this video at the top of the video description. Now I'm going to hand over this next section to myself to explain everything you really need to know about this brutal but rewarding RPG. Alright, so here's the battle screen. We have our team here on the left and actually the good guys on the right. Yes, we are the bad guys here in Aratus, and we're actually going to be not only just trying to kill them, but we're also going to be lowering their sanity with certain stress skills. As you can see here, here is our skeleton skills, and some attacks actually do damage and some do stress damage. And stress attacks can either do debuffs, like right here, he takes 50% more damage because we've lowered his sanity just a bit. But if you keep whittling that down, you can get them to outright flee the battle, they can damage each other, or they can kill themselves with a heart attack. So there's various benefits if you go for stress damage, but it's not absolutely necessary. You could always just try to aim and outright kill them. So next up we have our wrath meter down at the bottom, which is this fiery ring that's at 96 out of 100, so we might as well spend some of that. And the bottom rightmost skill for every one of your characters is going to be their wrath attack. This one's actually pretty good, it deals stress damage to everybody. So let's go ahead and fire that off. So with that attack, we actually just lowered the sanity of 2 more characters, so 2 of them have Berserk, and this last guy actually has all remaining strength, where he'll lose 40% of his health every turn, but he also receives an extra action. So something else to keep in mind are these little symbols here underneath their sanity. One is block and one is ward. Block will just outright nullify any oncoming physical damage, and ward will block any oncoming stress or magic damage. So next up you have your mana here in the middle, and that's going to power all of your spells here in this tab. You can either use this to move left or right your units, or you can fire off some spells that you've learned. So a stance I really like for the zombie is Bombardment, but he cannot do it because he has to be in the back 2 rows. So we're actually going to use the move left, kind of shift him back so he can enter that. And after the next turn, he'll actually fire off a volley of bullets on everyone. Big fan of that one. So stances are something that you can enter, also something that enemies can enter, and there are also certain skills that will take advantage and exploit characters and stances. So as you can see, we did lose somebody in that battle, not ideal, but it's not that hard to get units back in this. And actually, these crafting materials we have here are going to be used to make more of our minions, which I will be covering here in a second. So we're back at our home base, and some of our units leveled up, so let's take a look at the abilities and stats first. So our mummy has an ability point, and you can assign that to any of his active skills, but you do have to choose one of these 2 options here on the side. As you can see, you also get a statistical improvement as well, and you cannot choose both. But let's go ahead, and I like the concept of inflicting things for longer durations, so let's go ahead and buy Dire Curse. So in that last battle we did lose a minion sadly, and we can just throw out a reserve there if we want to, or we can go into creation and just make someone entirely new. So here's all the minions we can make. Some of these are locked behind, they're almost like achievements, like turn 3 enemies into vampires and we would unlock the vampire. Use 7,500 wrath, but we did just lose our Dark Knight, so let's go ahead and make a new one. So if you click fill right here, it'll socket in everything that you need to craft him if you have it over here on the right. But something to consider is actually the rarity of the materials used. So right here there's ectoplasm, it just uses the basic one, but we actually have a higher tier one that will give him 14 extra stat points when we make him. So let's go ahead and throw that on. And there we go, we have our Dark Knight back with 14 points. Gonna give him a little more attack, give him some of those lovely shields and wards I like. And the only thing he's really lacking is his abilities. He kind of back to square one on his abilities. So that was creation. Now let's head over to the graveyard. So all of these buildings, they need people to work in them to actually function. Some increase their experience, some are farming me materials, but as you can see there's one not built yet. So we're going to build the Aratus statue. So as you can see, we need 2 things here. We actually need a specific unit here to actually build this, as well as a certain amount of digger souls, which are this little gear icon right here. So let's go ahead and head back over to crafting. Since it doesn't matter really how good they are, we're going to just make a very basic Bride of Aratus. Head back to the graveyard, and then we can just throw her on there. and that is built. And she will start working in there straight away as well. And with that statue, that's actually going to restore our mana in between every battle. And as you can see, your mana does not quite come back on its own. We're at 28 out of 100, so it's actually pretty important. There is another way to get mana back if we go over to alchemy, where there's calcination. So the calcination process will actually restore some mana, and it just costs some of your materials over here. You can socket anything in there, so use things that you don't think you'll need. Go ahead and craft, and that will fill our mana resource up to 68 out of 100. So that's one other good way to get your mana back. You can also do a similar process for HP, so we don't really have anybody too injured. Our skeleton's kinda hurt there. And there we go, we just topped off his health by just spending some of our extra crafting materials. So next there's transmutation. So say you want a certain type of material like the weapon material here, you can just socket things in there as well and convert them to what you need. Obviously you're wasting more materials to do so, but it does give you what you might require. So last in alchemy there's extraction, which allows you to make any of these items over here, which you do assign to your minions kind of like gear. And we did just get some weapon materials, so let's go ahead and make this increases physical damage by 10% dagger. So next up there's artifacts, which will assign to your main commander dude here. Now some of these are just passive things that don't go away, and some of them are one-time use items like Jar of Blood here. So after combat, all your minions recover to full HP. That's pretty darn good. You'll assign that there, and that will be consumed during our next battle. Also, your main commander has his own level and stats over here, and say we don't actually want or need some of this gear, you can throw that down here. We'll disintegrate some of these, and as you can see, we get 1,000 more experience for him. And that will directly turn into talent points. So there's 4 different tiers of talents. Some of these are like magic spells that function off your mana. You can fire those off during battle. Some are more passives that just do things outside of battle. But some of these are pretty powerful, so you definitely want to pick and choose what's right for your build. That was just a general overview of the core mechanics and systems in Aratus, Lord of the Dead. And again, if it looks like your kind of thing, you can find a link to the Steam page right beneath this video at the top of the video description. Now, if you happen to enjoy my style of content, consider subscribing to Boomstick Gaming for more, ringing that little bell icon if you already are, and you can also find me over on Twitter at BoomstickAlex. Lastly, a special thank you to Daedalic Entertainment for sponsoring this video, and to these top tier YouTube members and patrons as well, who really all help to keep this channel operational. As always, this has been Alex from Boomstick Gaming, and thanks for watching.